What's up, Metaverse family? Welcome back to On-Chain Gaming. Today is going to be a very cool interview with some of the team members behind Myria. And I know a lot of you guys have been asking me about this new project. I know that a lot of people who watch this channel are fans of Gala Games. I'm a fan of Gala as well. And Myria kind of came onto the scene. And a lot of you guys who are into this other project have been asking me on Twitter and YouTube comments about Myria. So I thought, what a better way to answer some of our questions and learn about this up and coming project than to have some people from Myria on the channel. So today we are joined by Brendan and Ivan. I'll just give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves here to the on-chain gaming community.
Yeah, absolutely. So I can go first. So as you said, my name is Brendan Duhamel. I'm one of the co-founders and the head of blockchain at Myria. I'm a novice professionally, although not personally, to gaming. My entire professional career for the last decade has been blockchain in some capacity or another. So I started. Was very lucky to live down the street from the MIT Bitcoin Club back in 2012 timeframe, and so got involved in the Bitcoin scene.
Nice, yeah.
In the early days, and was quite young and wasn't able to convince my parents to take out a second mortgage and invest, or otherwise I'd be in a different position. But even so, it got me involved in the space, and then I've as I said, been involved in loads of different projects and different verticals since then. So had a few different startups in Bitcoin, and then was consulting for smaller regional banks that were curious about how they're going to respond to blockchain, and then eventually was the blockchain lead became the largest trade finance blockchain network globally. And then with the extra time during the pandemic, I got back into crypto proper, had a small crypto ETF for a little while, and then was lucky enough to get in touch with the rest of the co-founding team at Myria, and I've been working on it for about a year now.
Okay.
So my role is running the engineering team on the blockchain side. So that means essentially developing our L2 solution, and then also making it, as we'll talk about in a little bit, as easy as possible to get other projects to develop on our solution. So that's what I'm doing, and it's been an awesome journey.
Cool. Well, yeah, we'll definitely get more into the layer two a little bit later on, because I would love to learn more about the technology that you guys are building and how it's going to benefit Web3 gaming. So, but first, let's give an opportunity to Ivan here. Introduce yourself. Let us know a little bit about your background and why you decided to make Web3 games.
Thank you, Jake. So I'm the VP of Gaming here at Myria, and I have been a game developer for probably 12 years already. I started as a level designer in Gameloft back when there was no free-to-play. We were doing games for iPhone 3GS. And actually, that was probably the wildest and darkest times when it comes to the game development, during which I was learning to walk as I was actually required to run. And I spent around 5 years in Gameloft, learned a lot. I was able to be part of the emergence of free to play as a model.
Okay.
We're able to work on one of the biggest and more successful games in that regard in Gameloft. And at some point, I decided to move on. I spent some time, doing indie projects. No, everyone's dream when you join the game industry to do something on your own, to not have any creative constraints and stuff like this.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I worked for some time in big outsourcing companies. I was doing lots of fighting games, worked on Mortal Kombat Mobile and other installments, which also was a great opportunity to kind of delve a little bit more in the technical arts side of things, but also to improve as a lead game designer. And then I actually got my first engagement into blockchain gaming back in 2017. It was kind of like a free-to-play mobile esports platform where you can basically stake a token versus the other player in a PvP match, and winner takes it all type of scenario. That was short-lived due to the to the change of the market conditions at the beginning of 2018. And at that time, I switched back to the regular free-to-play, I joined Crazy Labs, which is one of the leading publishers when it comes especially to casual, hyper-casual games. I was doing mostly runner games like Reckless Ladybug, Jumanji, Epic Run, Hotel Transylvania Adventures, mostly doing IP-based titles with Sony.
Mm-hmm.
This was the time when I delved more into the data-driven design and on analytics, trying to ramp up the full department, a little bit more focus on training and managing the teams. That was pretty essential experience for me. And then I moved to Ubisoft, uh, doing more like idle strategy simulation games, where I was handling a full department of game designers as a head of design. And yeah, that was pretty cool experience by itself. I'm pretty happy with my time spent there.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, I had got this opportunity to join Myria and do something more crazy, delve into this more uncharted territory, which is the Web3. And I decided, because I'm not that young anymore, that if I'm going to make this kind of like a leap of faith into this unknown,
Mm-hmm.
what many psychologists would call the sublime.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's the right time to do it. Also, I'm the type of person to always look for the new challenge,
Mm-hmm.
even though this usually comes with a bit sense of insecurity and you don't know what's there for you. But you also can, I would say that in comparison to my previous engagements, what I do here in Mira is capable of really utilizing my full potential as a game designer, because I really like to do a lot of things. I'm doing concept art sometimes, even 3D models, writing the storylines and stuff like this. So aside from just wrapping up other designers, training and recruitment, managing, establishing process roadmaps, doing just basic system design, I also love to, whenever there is something on the table that needs to be done, I'm there to kind of like push something to happen. So that's in a nutshell about me.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'm curious, and either of you guys can take this question. Kind of when you were first getting like recruited to join Myria, what is the like the vision that they shared with you? What is trying to be built here, and what makes you guys excited about what the blockchain brings to gaming, and how it improves gaming for gamers? And then also, if you can throw in while answering that, sorry, just how many people are a part of Myria now, and like how big is the organization?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll answer if that's okay, Ivan,
Yeah.
and then if you want to jump in and add some some color to my answer, feel free. And then I'll answer question two, Jake, first, and then I'll go back to question one, and then
Okay.
I'll go question three,
Sounds
because
good.
I think question two, as to kind of why I'm excited about blockchain and gaming generally, is a big part of why I was so excited with the vision that was pitched to me, and why I decided to join, because I think. As you'll hear about our vision, you understand that our vision is very closely aligned with sort of just the vision of blockchain gaming generally. Like we really do want to make blockchain gaming as ubiquitous as gaming generally, right? Like that is our goal, and it's a big mission, but it is our mission as a company. So why I'm excited about that is I've been involved, as I said, in a lot of blockchain verticals over the last decade, and always we're fighting sort of incumbents, and we're fighting traditional ways of doing things. In blockchain gaming, I think we have more space because we're replicating more and more the physical or the real, the meat space in the digital realm, and sort of how we conduct our lives in the digital realm, and in gaming specifically. And there's no sort of default way of maintaining ownership of assets or executing contracts between economies or entities within those economies. And so we have really basically what's a greenfield to redo how the economy works and build it on infrastructure that works and that is understandable and predictable. Unlike a lot of the kind of contract execution systems and ownership models that we have in place today, right? Regimes and states are not particularly predictable or knowable, and so building on infrastructure where people really can be confident that if they're going to spend 1,000 hours, 2,000 hours on a game and acquiring these assets, that they actually are going to be the owner of these assets that they're acquiring, because it's built on a decentralized infrastructure which can't be sort of arbitrarily taken down by one actor, right? So that is really, really exciting. And again, because there's so much that we haven't done. Of course, there's kind of there's been in-game assets and stuff like that before, but in terms of replicating the real world in the digital realm and in these games, we don't have sort of one jurisdictional way of doing it yet. And so building on better infrastructure from the beginning is really fascinating. So that's kind of why I'm fascinated in the use case generally. And as I said, I think that's why when the vision of Myria was pitched to me, which was that we want to make blockchain games ubiquitous. And that's both by creating our own very good games, rather than saying play this game because it's on the blockchain and then hey look it's also a game. It's hey, play this game because it's fun, and then look, there are additional benefits because it's on the blockchain. I think that pitch makes a lot of sense. And then as a nerd and as an engineer by trade, this idea of sort of the biggest barrier right now being simply the fact not that these studios don't want to get involved, but that it's difficult for them to do so because they have to learn a smart contract language, or they have to learn what the hell layer 2 is or something like that. Like that's as just like an engineer who likes to make lives of other developers easier, that to me is an obvious thing, right? Okay, if there's somebody that wants to do something but they can't because there's no API to do it, I'm going to be there building it. So that's a big part of why I signed up for the vision. And then question 3. So that was 2, 1, and now 3. How many people are we at? Like, what's the organization like? We're above 100 already. So we've been working on the project for a little over a year, and we're now in excess of 100 employees. I think it's 120 or something like that. And it's worth saying that, and it's important to say this because as I'm sure you know, not all projects can say this, unfortunately, but over half of that total headcount is in product and engineering. So individuals like myself who are actually building the product and the suite of tools that we're allowing other studios to work with. So that's really exciting. It's not just us out here doing these talks, which are awesome and exciting. Like we're also the bulk of us, actually, the majority of our team is building. And we're still heavily recruiting and hiring, and hope to be in the sort of north of 200 range by the end of the year. So please check out our careers page, reach out to us on Discord or wherever. I'm always looking for the best talent in all domains. So we're trying to continue to expand.
Yeah, cool. Thanks for that, Brendan. Ivan, did you have anything to add on to that about the vision of Myria? And why you're excited?
I want to mention something. This is kind of like a continuation to what I was mentioning earlier, that I really am looking for a challenge. And when you're a game designer, a challenge is usually manifested by having a more complicated and complex system by itself. And this is one of the things that drew me. The fact that we are trying to build this big framework and platform rather than just looking at the small pieces which are the games by themselves. But aside from that, the other fact that really resonated with me is that with Myria, what we're trying to focus on and put the emphasis is on the actual game itself first. So game first, and then blockchain second, because I truly believe that improving the system or moving to the next stage should be iterative. So we shouldn't just dismiss what has been done for ages on Web3, on the Web3 stage. It has amazing things already achieved by many talented people, and we want to build on top of that by utilizing the capabilities that are going to be derived from the Web3 capabilities of the system. So this is something that kind of like, it's really challenging on one side because you need to be, okay, so there is the regular game development with all its complex mechanics and pipelines and processes, but you also have additional element that is really important. This challenge of how we put those together and make it in a sustainable and meaningful way in the long run. This is something that really is a challenge and opportunity for me. So that's probably one of the main driving force behind my decision to move with Myria.
Cool. All right. Awesome. Well, I appreciate those answers there. So I want to spend about 20 minutes on the games, and then we'll finish off with about 20 minutes on the node ecosystem slash the roll up layer 2 and that whole side of the ecosystem. So before I jump into the games though, I just want to say, so that you guys like know where I'm coming from, like I am a massive advocate of the Web3 space, and I know that there's like a lot of competition in the comments and stuff, like people saying like this project is trash or this project's way better. But I just want to put this out here that I really don't think that Web3 projects are really competing against each other as much as Web3 gaming projects are competing and taking market share from the traditional gaming space, while I think the blockchain is also going to be expanding the market as a whole. And I think we're really in a positive sum game here. And I think that as we're talking about new projects coming into this, like we should have this positive sum mindset that this whole space has multiple orders of magnitude of growth ahead. But it's my job as a creator to make sure that I am like finding projects that are valid, that are really trying to build something of substance, and that are not going to leave my viewers and those who are excited about crypto, rug pulled and stuff like that. So with that in mind, let's talk about the games a little bit.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, sure.
Can I just say one thing, Jake?
Yeah, totally.
That was an awesome summary of our own philosophy, which is that this is a positive sum game, and especially the third point you brought up about how we are creating. We're not just taking market share or competing with a pie with these other projects that are out there. We are creating, and I definitely believe that serious market share. And so like we're very positive about the other projects that we get compared to. So and I understand the nature of trying to figure out that we're legitimate. That's why we're here. And we're happy to field the questions. But it was well said, by the way, and what we believe as well.
Awesome, cool, glad to hear it. So I guess Ivan, this is moving into kind of your expertise here, talking about the games. So I fielded a bunch of questions off of Twitter. And I wanted to make sure I highlighted some of the questions that people had, and I'll have a couple of my own in here as well. But one of the questions that we got was, I think really based off of the art. Someone is wondering, like, why is Myria's focus at the beginning kind of creating, it seems like replicas of past successful games, rather than like creating like brand new games or concepts onto the space? And if that's just like like a question coming from like a misunderstood presupposition, then correct that as well, Ivan.
Okay, I think this is actually a great question because it underlines the importance of the right communication between the developers and the audience, basically. And I would make a step back here and say that we are fundamentally focusing on certain genres rather than a specific game in particular. So there isn't that much of like a fundamentally archetypical type of gameplay. So we have the FPS genre. We have seen what has been happening lately with the battle royales. But we have to also remember, for example, when I was in my teenagehood, I was playing a lot of Unreal Tournament. It's one of my favorite games. And it has a last man standing mode. It was there. It was just like that. In the recent years, it has been extrapolated, polished to a bit, and kind of like presented a separate game. But it's just fundamentally the same type of game. And I would say that this is what we're doing. We're trying to look at genres where we can identify both enough interest from the community that we are going to be, not really delving into some niche markets where
Mm-hmm.
we won't be really noticed. Because, I mean, in the end of the day, we're trying to build a successful business here. And this means that we need to come from different directions when approaching the type of games we are going to put in our portfolio. We're trying to be as diverse as possible and in the same time work on things that are also exciting for us. So I don't think you'll be seeing a fish simulator or a deer hunter game from our site anytime soon.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say that we're replicating successful games. We are mostly trying to uh, do our take on successful genres, and
Mm-hmm.
we are definitely trying to put our own type of approach to any type of game we're going to be putting on the market. Even though on first glance that those might look similar to other titles, uh, we I can guarantee you that in terms of mechanics, gameplay mechanics, we're going to have a lot of unique features on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it comes to, this is something that I really want to emphasize, and it really feeds back to what you were mentioning in the beginning. We're trying to build sustainable economies. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, since I'm coming from, the Web2 scene, this is where I grew as a specialist and as an expert. I know that what's the potential there. I know that, I mean, we all know that this is a multi-billion business that works perfectly fine and it can be extremely profitable on its own without any scamishy Ponzi type of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, stuff going around it. So I truly believe that we have a really good shot at nailing down a sustainable type of economy that is going to really kind of like give an additional push to the system in a way that will. So let's say that the Web2, if I can go into a little bit of abstraction here, is a pipeline that originates from the developer,
Mm-hmm.
then goes down a level to the product, and then the final destination is the customer, the gamer. And
Mm-hmm.
this is a one-way journey. Basically, the moving material and the dynamic flow is just from top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And with Web3 and what we are trying to build, because it's not just Web3 per se. This is especially true if you're building the game in a sustainable manner, not like in, I won't be mentioning other names, but we all know about those games that are promising your heaven and hell.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, you'll get something if you're an early adopter. Uh, let's say we had a case like this before, which is called BitConnect. Everybody knows about that.
Mm-hmm.
The early adopters are making ton of cash, but eventually the system will die out,
Yeah.
inflation will settle, and it's not going to work. I mean, you cannot really invent value out of thin air. This is
Mm-hmm.
this is magic. This is not real life.
Yeah.
So in my vision about Web3 as a framework or a very simple loop, is this more like single dimensional correspondence between developers, product, and and the user, which is kind of like a triangle that has more two-dimensional and two-directional flow of material. So basically, you can take out of the system in some ratio compared to how you put into the system. So usually in the Web2 space, what we're seeing is that you're putting a lot of either resources, you're paying for something to get some value out of it, like a skin, an item, whatever, progress into the game. And the other, the parallel, the alternative is to spend time. This is actually much more expensive resource.
Mm-hmm.
And the issue for me, especially, I've been playing, for example, Dota for 17 years,
Mm-hmm.
since 2005. And I have tons of things that I've locked into the game. And yeah, maybe this is one of the few games that there is like an actual market where you can still sell some things, but
Mm-hmm.
you still don't have that much flexibility. Some skins, the last ones that I unlocked during the battle pass, the battle pass season, they're locked for a year. I cannot even sell them.
Mm-hmm.
And this is far from ideal because I really, maybe I want to stop playing the game. Maybe I'm frustrated by the matchmaking system, which doesn't work and puts me into kind of like shitty position.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have a way out. I cannot really monetize my thousands of hours spent in the game in a way that would make sense for me. I cannot really take my stuff and put it into another game. And this is something that I really believe that Web2 games are going to be much better at in terms of, really giving some tangible dimension to the time that you invest into the game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no,
So,
I agree for sure. So when do you think we'll see like the first playable demo or something from one of these games launching on Myria?
so we do have a very strict plan to be releasing by the end of the summer and especially in the autumn a couple of alphas
Mm-hmm.
for the audience. And yeah, I mean, right now I would say that we have more than two games that are kind of like already have playable builds that we
Mm-hmm.
are obviously going through internal QA process because I mean, lots on ice would be looking at us, and especially with our first releases, we want to make sure that we are really, doing our homework
Mm-hmm.
and not releasing something just for the sake of, yeah, guys, this is we're working on something. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
take a look at here, but we really are trying to approach this in a professional manner. So, there are system stages, there are like pre-alpha, closed betas.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to gather as much as data as possible to not really do things on a whim, but actually based on actual user experience. So we are going to be looking at a lot of feedback from the audience. And this is something that I really like about Web3 as well, because it feels like it's like a kind of like a protest vote to the established corporate approach to game development, in which case you kind of like have this long process of development behind closed doors, and eventually something is being pushed to the
Mm-hmm.
market. Yeah, sometimes there will be like some user feedback that will be taken into consideration, but let's be honest about it. Most of the time, there is an established process and planning and roadmap that really sets uh, the vector for the production. In our
Mm-hmm.
case, we want to engage the audience as soon as possible because that is kind of like a big leverage towards the production as well, because the sooner we engage the audience, the sooner we are going to be getting the right amount of feedback, because
Mm-hmm.
the ownership side of games is really something that fits into this whole loop of, okay, quality, flow of material and resources, and eventually pushing the good product at the end of the line. But I want to emphasize on the fact that we are trying to build games as the experienced game developers that we are. So we are not just going to go out on a fair, just showcasing some things that won't see the light of the day
Mm-hmm.
in the months following the alphas.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to really do what's the best for the product and eventually for the user, because those two things, as mentioned before, are tight connected.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can you talk a little bit about some of the studios that are also making games on Myria? Because there has been like some questions about like who some of these other studios are. Because at least the way that I understand, Myria is building. You guys are building some games in house, but then you're also going to be releasing some games on the platform that aren't in house. And I don't know, could you talk a little bit, Ivan, about how you guys like picked the studios to work with that are also going to be launching games on Myria, and a little bit about their backgrounds?
Okay, so this is something that maybe I should have started with because it's a really important part of our DNA. It's actually one of our main pillars. So Myria, on by design, by origin, is more about building the Myria platform, which can hold an unlimited amount of games without defining any big constraints, categories, and basically just enable developers who want to build any games uh, on Web3
Mm-hmm.
within our ecosystem to really do it. So, for example, if you're a game developer and don't have any scaling solution uh, that's under your disposal, you can come to us and re-onboard your game. Obviously, there is going to be some level of quality that needs to be met. Won't be, publishing any games out there just in the bulk to reach the certain numbers. But that's actually our long game here. We're trying to build Myria as a platform, and the games that we are doing ourselves are kind of like secondary. Therefore, feeding back to your question, the the partner games are something that is really, really important for us. And so some of the games that and the studios that we're seeing right now are more or less kind of like new. They seem, either say they don't seem that much, trustworthy because they are new ones. But when you're trying to build on such an uncharted type of foundation, most of the developers, they're trying to kind of like create separate entities and really give it a shot. If it works, it works. But that's I mean, it's understandable. Uh, it's a very fundamental business logic. If you're trying to kind of like go for a new endeavor, usually you're going to be, registering a new company. But I can assure that most of these developers, they are really experienced in what they are doing. They have a lot of games behind their back. Uh, but this is also not something that we want to put as a limitation, as I mentioned. We still want to allow even more unexperienced indie developers to have the chance to really build on our platform and utilize our SDK and Web3 solution, because there might be there are different games for everyone. Even myself, I'm playing mostly hardcore PC games, but sometimes I'll be just matching candies on Candy Crush Saga. That's fun by itself. It has its moments.
Yeah.
So for that purpose, we want to just say to the developers out there, guys, if you have a good idea for a game and you want to really explore the Web3 domain, come to Myria, use our solution to really onboard your game to this whole new domain, and let's see where we can take this.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So yeah, there's a lot to get out of that so far from both of your questions. So first of all, we'll have some playable demos soon, which I think is really important for trust. I know, I think in the Web3 space, especially because a lot of the early games that we've seen haven't been high quality AAA games. There's a lot of grace in the space, and people get really impressed with something that's just oh wow, that's a normal game. It's people are just that super impressed by that. So I think my advice to you guys would be get out some playable demos, and you can make it clear that this is not the final version of the game, and they don't even need to be playable for long. Make them playable for a week or two, just so that the community can get their hands on what you guys are building and see okay, yeah, there is some real development here. I see potential that this could be something fun in the future. And I would highly advise that before even a node sale or anything. Because I think that would just that would even give me so much more confidence to be able to promote it and tell people yeah, this is going to be a good ecosystem if I've been able to try out some of this, Ivan, especially because you're talking about these are new studios that you're partnered with. And I was trying to dox who was behind some of these new studios, and it's kind of hard. I think one of the studios doesn't even have their own website or social media presence or anything like that. So being able to just play a game would go so long, or would go so far to building confidence. Any thoughts on that, Ivan?
Yeah, this is something that I've been an indie game developer. I've started things on my own, and I've worked with many of those. I've been, the groups and Facebooks and so forth. So that's completely under way of doing something like this. I mean, you don't have the resources, and that's actually where most of the indie developers fail, because they think about marketing as the last thing in line, because they're enthusiastic. Okay, I have this awesome idea about this game. Let me start putting things together in the engine, and then nobody gives a shit about their game because nobody knows about it.
Yeah.
So this is actually something that I want to mention for the ones that want to build on our platform, that part of the cooperation that we're going to be putting forward is really enabling them to work on the games, and sometimes kind of okay, so you guys need help with marketing, you guys need help with this or that. This is something that we are approaching in the right way on our side. We know that marketing is extremely important, especially in this space where there is a lot of issues going on right now. As you mentioned, the majority of the players out there that are putting something that they call games, they don't really have experience with games.
Mm-hmm.
They're not seasoned game developers. They're trying to just, you know, utilize the situation for their own benefit. And this is something that we're trying to approach with the long game in mind, with the right marketing. So it's, for me, it's completely understandable if the partner studios won't have their website or where they have a social presence, because this is usually somebody that you need to hire separately, like as community manager or social manager. Just to
Mm-hmm.
give you an example, in one of the previous companies where I worked, it was like a leading company in the industry. They still would have a community manager hired at some point when I was there. Before that, there was no one. I mean, their Instagram page was like 1,000 people. I have more followers on Instagram, no?
Mm-hmm.
So this is something that you can see with quite big companies out there. And I do understand that looking at something that is in an industry that is just kind of like emerging, and there is like a predominance of shady players, is something that is really kind of like sticking out if you don't have, because you're looking for any possible hook to hang on to, just say, okay, that's something that's valid, that's not, fraud, and these guys are serious, they do mean business.
Mm-hmm.
And I can assure that in the forthcoming months, the things that will be be revealed on our end will be quite ring.
Cool. Cool. All right, Brendan, tell me a little bit. Just the last question on games before we move on to nodes and well, honestly, this is probably has to do with the layer two a little bit. How are you guys building like the crypto onboarding for these indie developers to be able to like launch to like help them out if they want to launch their game as a Web3 game?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've alluded to this a few times about how we're creating a stack of
Mm-hmm.
developer tools.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's the first thing to mention. So developer tools, including a set of REST APIs,
Yeah.
SDKs, a variety of languages, which we know different developers across the ecosystem are going to ask for.
Mm-hmm.
Potentially in the future, some sort of domain specific language like a DSL, which allows, because I've seen this quite a bit in the space where you have a trade-off between sort of ease of crypto onboarding
Mm-hmm.
and ability to be creative, right? There's almost always a trade-off
Yeah.
because if you don't know how to write Solidity code, then you're probably just going to say, hey, can you deploy this Solidity contract for me? And whatever you want to deploy is fine. But if we're able to really recognize what facets of these in-game assets need to be customizable, then we can come up with a language, a domain-specific language, as I said, that doesn't have to require developers to know what the heck is going on in Solidity, much less a different language that doesn't even target the EVM because it's L2 or something like that. But they're able to kind of describe what they need, and then we can kind of translate that into smart contract specific things. So that's a big part of it for sure, is the suite of developer tools. But what I'll also say is that a lot of us on the co-founding team and the leadership team come from large enterprise backgrounds, and so we recognize that in fact a lot of times at the end of the day, the biggest barrier of entry is not strictly technical, in that there are a lot of additional kind of compliance, regulatory, and everything else that pops up that restricts some of the bigger enterprises from really jumping in. And so being able to be tuned into the space, and I think working with our community on this is going to be really helpful, such that we don't need to attempt to take on every single aspect of the solution, but we can be a turnkey destination where we use our core protocol and we use the developer tools for these studios coming onto our platform, but then we're also able to point them in the direction of the best sort of auxiliary solutions that hopefully are being developed by our community members and other leaders in the space. And we can say, okay, yeah, for for custody right now, you go here, and you're able to work seamlessly with us in that regard because we've already kind of integrated with that provider. So I think being both a technical leader in the tools that we have, but also a thought leader in our ability to point these companies in the right direction when it comes to stuff like the compliance and regulatory and custody and all of that is a big differentiator for us. We know how to get things over the line in some of the most immobile enterprises that are out there. I sold into banks mostly in my previous life, the largest banks in the world. So I know what it takes to finally get the check mark, not in like a proof of concept standpoint, because there is a difference, right? Like you see all these partnerships, but I know from working in the banking world that announcing that your innovation team is about to launch some product is a very different beast than trying to get the larger organization all told behind it. And so I think we have the right expertise to make that happen.
So how similar is what Myria is building as far as the layer 2 solution goes? How similar is it to like Immutable X, for example? And why did you guys choose to go with building your own thing rather than just use something like Immutable X? Is it because it allows you to create the extra developer tools and that kind of thing?
Yes, absolutely. So the ease with which we're able to augment the solution is always going to be easier when it's our own. I had a mentor at a previous gig who used to always say, to the extent possible, and obviously this is not always possible in our world because the entire space is 10 years old. So take this with a grain of salt. But to the extent possible, not stacking startups is just like good practice, right? So we're able to do more of the stack ourselves. That means that as long as you buy into the Myria community and the Myria vision, then you can be very confident that we're going to be around to last, right? Whereas if we chose to build on an existing stack or with an existing provider, then that means that you have to both believe that Myria is going to be longstanding and project and whatever project they're relying on, right? So we didn't bite off more than we can chew. We're not trying to rewrite smart contract languages ourselves. That wouldn't be helpful. We're quite happy to rely on the brightest and best in that domain. But when it came to the L2 solution itself, we think that it was really important that we're able to have the ability to, as I say, augment and do some additional kind of protocol work at some stage. In terms of our main differentiators, I think it really does come down to how we're selling and offering the protocol, right? Because as you probably know, L2 solutions have in fact been around for quite some time, and they've basically just been sitting there unused. I mean, some of the statistics around utilization of the rollups that exist right now are dismal if you look at the kind of different and even
well, and as a user it can be a hassle to try to like sign up for some of these new, and it's like, man, I would just like, it's the fee is not that much, I'm just gonna use the main chain.
No, that's what it is. And especially when the fees are really not that much right now, right? So so that's really our differentiation is how we're able to make these the impressive protocol changes actually usable by our customers.
So why did you guys decide to go with a layer 2 instead of building like a brand new chain like Gala's trying to build a Gala chain? What is the I guess the pros and cons of the two decisions, and why did you guys go for the layer 2?
Absolutely. So as an engineer myself, I am a little bit biased in this regard, maybe, but I always think that the ecosystem that has the highest amount of developer talent is eventually always going to be what wins out, right? And so I think at this stage, taking a bet on something that isn't anchored in Ethereum is a serious gamble that if I were the leader of one of these largest enterprises in the world trying to figure out how they were going to start to poke their toe into these waters, just would not be comfortable taking on. So I think that's the first and foremost reason for us, is because we're ultimately believers in the broader Ethereum ecosystem. We definitely want support, and we want it to be easy for studios who have already jumped in other ecosystems to come over, and so we're going to be creating tools for that. And no shame in making one decision and kind of then making the jump to us. So we're going to be making efforts in that regard, but I think definitely Ethereum is where the developers are, and where the developers are, we think wins in the end.
Yeah.
So that's the main reason. Yeah.
Okay, so just one more question about the layer 2, and it has to do with security, because bridges have seemed to be a big security risk when it comes to cryptocurrency. We've seen some of the biggest crypto hacks in history have seemed to like all happen on these bridges. So how do you guys make sure that Myria's layer 2 is secure, and you're not going to have one of these Axie Infinity type $600 million hacks that just like really destroy the momentum of everything?
Yeah. Destroy the momentum is maybe an understatement for sure. Yeah. $650 million hack definitely destroys some casual momentum, I would think.
Yeah.
That needed to be the second half of my answer, which is that's the other thing, right? Is that building another L1 means that bridges in sort of the traditional definition are required. I think it's sort of an unfortunate fact that bridging has been the term that's been used to describe what happens between layer 1 and layer 2s, especially rollups, because there's messaging which needs to happen, but the assets in many ways remain on the L1. So the bridge is a much tighter coupling in a L1 to sort of L2 roll up than it is on a L1 assets moving completely over to Axie Infinity chain or something like that, right? So that was a big factor in our decision, and we're working, as I say, we're trying to take on as much as we can so that we have the customizability, if that's a word, for a lot of the protocol stuff and the features that we're augmenting. But we're also aware, and I think this is a good thing when a company can admit this, we're aware of our limitations too. And so as I said, we're not trying to rewrite smart contract languages from scratch or anything like that. So we're working with the best and brightest, as we'll sort of be announcing as we get closer to launch, in the sort of L2 and zero knowledge roll-up space. And so we're quite confident that the security is there on the bridges, which aren't really bridges between L1 and L2. So we're happy with that.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to move on to a Twitter question. Someone on Twitter said that they would love to understand the goals and of the node ecosystem and kind of the economics behind that. So they said, quote, Myria needs to do a better showcasing of their vision to potential node purchasers. So I don't know, either one of you guys could take this question.
I'm happy to. And
okay.
Ivan, you Jake, if you want to add any, sorry, I cut you off maybe. If you
no, that's good. Go for it. Okay. I think I got the question.
Okay, good. Well, let me say first of all that we haven't slated, as you know, the exact date for the public sale yet. So certainly as relates our messaging around prospective public node buyers, as we set that date and we get more concrete about when we're going live with the node sale, we're obviously going to make a much greater effort in terms of getting the message out there. That doesn't excuse me from answering the question right now, so I will, but let me just say that, that we're well aware that we need to communicate this, and even in terms of we see questions all the time about pricing. We will obviously, we're not going to launch the public sale and say everybody come join, and everybody can't really plan because they have no idea what the price is. Like we're going to be very upfront about these things. It's just a matter of timing because we don't have the exact date yet of when public sale is going to be. So that's important. And then in terms of like the economics and sort of the purpose or the long-term vision of these nodes, I really like that question. I'm excited for it because I think that's a big differentiator for us as well. These nodes are going to do a lot. They're going to do sort of everything from decentralized storage needs and oracles and the technical stuff. So eventually even being sort of sequencers and orders, et cetera, on the L2. So that's currently a more, I don't want to say centralized, but it uses a fewer number. So having like a decentralized network of compute power available for us to utilize in these different technical challenges as we move forward is super important. And then also for the community engagement type stuff. So for governance voting and for voting on game specific concepts, including potentially which games we want to rally behind. Obviously, it's an open ecosystem, but which games we want to rally behind as a community and what potentially goes on in these games, et cetera. So we want these nodes to be involved in everything, as I said, from like the very technical sequencing on L2 to them, helping us decide which direction we should be taking in terms of games, et cetera. So lots of good stuff to come on the node front. And then let me just also make a comment that although the idea is that we have a 5-year plan to distribute the 40% of total Myria tokens, which will go to node owners. We also have a plan in place for beyond 5 years. So we are here to last. And so we have a plan in place for beyond 5 years, which is that we'll have a way to circulate ecosystem revenue back to node operators even after that 5-year period. So it's not as if you kind of have to believe that you stick around for 5 years and it's either going to be worth it for you or not. We hope absolutely that it's going to be within 5 years, obviously, but you're still going to be a big part of the ecosystem and very possibly an even larger part of the ecosystem after the 5-year sort of reward distribution, because we hope by that point, obviously, we're a sustainable business with quite a lot of revenue to be sharing around to those helping us drive the network.
Mm-hmm. Is there any plan for the nodes to actually host any of the games, or will it mostly just be for decentralizing the layer 2?
Definitely, we've had some conversations about that. So I think as I don't want to get sort of too theoretical, because I understand that the audience can be quite broad on these, but there is definitely something to be said about the trend in the space to have sort of more and more of game activity make it on chain. And as that happens, you do need a decentralized way to host these games. It's not going to be something that these nodes are going to do kind of on day one, but it's definitely something we're interested longer term. That the need to trust the game studios or sort of like the individuals or entities that are hosting these games reduces. So it's definitely something that we're interested in longer term. They're going to be doing everything that as much as we can ask to be decentralized, our decentralized network of nodes is going to be helping with.
Okay, so I think you said that 40% of the coins are going to be distributed to node owners over the first 5 years, right? What is the other 60%? Can you break down the tokenomics of that other 60%?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't want to say we haven't, as you know, released the white paper. It's in sort of legal review right now, and
Okay.
We're very excited to release it soon.
Cool.
So bear with us on that. But ecosystem development, as well as sort of ability to hire and a lot else. So yeah, but there'll be some announcements there quite soon. I just don't want to get super specific.
Okay. And then I guess I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer this question either, because it's also kind of specific, but is there a set amount of nodes that you guys are thinking of, like a max supply of these founder nodes that are going to exist? And do you know what that number is?
I do. I was verifying it with my notes here because it's I wanted to make sure I say it right. Yeah, 55,000 is sort of what we're thinking in terms of total number of nodes. And so that could change closer to, as I say, the launch date that we set for the public sale. But that's the thinking as of now.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I guess if the node sale's after summer, then we should have already had a beta, so that would be super cool.
So I didn't mention this earlier because the question was tailored toward the game side, but also we're launching our L2, like the entire L2 with wallet and marketplace capabilities, which will allow users who have acquired NFTs. As you might know, we have over 850,000 signups on the Myria account system through the sigil campaign that we did.
Nice,
so we have a lot of people ready to use our system when it goes live. And so we have wallet and marketplace all on L2, totally scalable and gas-free next month. So this is it's not just going to be on the game side that you're going to see some serious progress. You're going to see the L2 go live, and so that's a big part of why we decided to wait. It wasn't because we weren't ready; it was because we wanted to really get the ecosystem excited about what we're doing, and that includes the game side as we've talked about. But the L2 is coming imminently.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, it sounds like you guys are building something really cool. That's going to be great for the gaming community. So do either of you guys want to share some closing thoughts here on I don't know, what you guys are building or why people should believe in Myria as a company that to bet on, that's actually going to build value for those who are excited for this space and make this thing go mainstream?
Yeah, absolutely. So, Ivan, again, this is definitely one where I want your input on as well. But I do want to plug for a second the fact that in the last week, and you can go on Twitter to see this, we've had 4 games announced that they're building with us, and we've only
in the last week.
I
have not seen that.
So we've only really begun in earnest our like business development activities really recently, and the feedback that we've gotten already, like being able to show in confidence to these studios that we're talking to, has been awesome. So I mean, expect more, but so we had Boss Fighters, Adamant Mine, X Metaverse, and Gunstar all announced that they will be building on Myria. So we're making strides really quickly, and so in terms of it coming into life, definitely go onto Twitter for more details there. But then also you saw that we had you probably saw that we had an AMA Twitter space with Abe de Villiers, one of the most famous cricket players of all time, who's building a cricket game on our platform as well. So we have quite a few already announced they're going ahead with us, which I think probably speaks better to the longevity of our project and everything else than anything I can kind of just say about the technology. So let's just let others speak for us, and they're speaking kind of loudly and clearly right now, which is awesome.
Cool. Ivan, anything to add to that?
Yeah, basically, as just to kind of like move it a little bit further, we are also building a couple other games like FPS shooter, which is, as you might imagine, quite a long-term engagement, either in terms of development, but also in terms of the user interaction with it. It's not something that you play for a month and then ditch off. So this is something we are really looking to start shuffling content out there and getting into the classical live op phase, in which we can get to know the audience better and really tailor our product line to really fit better. Because in the end of the day, we want to appeal to the regular hardcore gamer, but also to bring lots of people who won't be in that much engaged with the regular gamer gaming type of domain, but when you put something extra on top of it, which is the Web3 side of things, they will be kind of like brought to the dark side, so to speak. And I mean, I definitely believe that the Web3 space still hasn't had that North Star company that has nailed down the formula of games from launcher's perspective. And this is still like a space which is in its infancy. And we do have I believe that anybody who approaches this seriously and with their best intention in mind, they have the opportunity to kind of like go for something that is interesting and innovative, and really kind of like push forward something that is more, interesting, and kind of like this is like an utopia for the indie game developer, because they are always looking for this opportunity to really showcase that they have a bit different take on things, and here we can do that in a domain that is not that much competitive and saturated. For us, it's a great opportunity to build something that will last and really set up the pace.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So where should people sign up and follow? I guess Myria is just literally at Myria, Myria. And then what's the website or Discord? I'm sure I can link it in the description.
Yeah. Link it for sure. But yeah, Myria.com and follow both Ivan and myself on Twitter as well. We're
cool. Yeah.
We're yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll try to get your guys' Twitters in the description as well. But yeah, make sure you guys have a referral program of some kind for the nodes before you actually launch that. Maybe, I don't know, if 40% is going to the node purchasers, 4% to the referrers or something like that.
I like that. Hey, that's a cool idea.
Yeah. That would be great. I mean, from our end, we would love to be able to get awarded for actual value. I think that's a great way to go with the mutual incentives and getting it all set up and aligned in the right way.
Yeah, it's something that we want to do for sure.
Yeah. Cool. Well, awesome. Thank you for joining me to kind of explain the vision of Myria for the on-chain gaming audience. I'm sure that a lot of people found this very educational. If you guys who are watching did find this educational, remember to drop a big thumbs up on the videos. That will help out a ton in the YouTube algorithm and will spread this video to more people. And then also, if you're not subscribed to On-Chain Gaming yet and you're excited about the Web3 gaming revolution, what are you doing? Make sure you hit subscribe and click that notification bell. And until next time, everyone, have fun roaming the metaverse.